This week on a brand new season of Arizona Illustrated, a kaleidoscopic look at the complicated borderlands.
We should think very carefully about how we interact with these landscapes and how one day can undo millennia of evolution.
Unlock the life-changing power of literacy through books.
Our test scores show giving our kids the time and the space to read has really paid off.
A photography space dedicated to learning and free of mansplaining.
It doesn't have to be this dominating competitive ladder that we're climbing. We're all growing together as a group.
And check out the best of contemporary Mexican cinema at the historic Fox Theater.
It always comes back to story when they really have the ability to connect us to our shared humanity.
Hello and welcome to the season premiere of Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. You know, this is the 11th season now of this magazine-style format of the show with me as your host, but Arizona Illustrated's been on the air for more than 40 years. Today, we're joining you from the Catalyst Maker space in the Tucson Mall. Arizona Public Media has recently partnered with the Southern Arizona Arts and Cultural Alliance, which runs this space and will be host to many community outreach events here over the coming year. We hope you'll come say hi to us at one of our events, so please be on the lookout for those. Photographer Luke Takata and naturalist Jack Dash have collected plants, taken photos, and recorded oral histories along the Arizona-Sonora Borderlands since 2017. They've documented myriad people who live and work there to better understand this 42-mile stretch known as the Atascosa Borderlands.
Atascosa Borderlands brings together over 10,000 medium format film photographs, along with about 1,200 botanical specimens. And the idea is to create a living archive that's dedicated to this area that we refer to as the Atascosa Highlands, which is a series of mountain ranges that run between Nogales to the east and the town of Sassabee to the west.
We're attempting to collect physical specimens of every or almost every species that occurs out here, both native and non-native. And of course, it's nice to focus on really beautiful native plants, but a non-native plant like this aster growing out of this disturbed area close to the border wall access road is really interesting because these sites of disturbance become vectors for non-native and potentially invasive plants to come into this landscape, and they act as ground zero for the spread of these non-native plants that will ripple out into the surrounding landscape. Floristic surveys are really useful, but one of the things that often gets left out of these types of studies is why the ecology is the way that we see it today. Oftentimes it ignores that human element that has played an integral role in shaping that ecology. And when you bring in that human element and combine that with the data that you're able to extract from a botanical checklist, you really get a clearer picture of how specific land management practices are creating that ecology that you're looking at.
A major part of this project is the oral history interviews that we've conducted.
And in those days, of course, the government didn't really have much of a problem with the, immigration problems. People came and went as they pleased.
There's always been a lot of energy and people and plants and animals passing through this area. And to me, it's becoming less of the borderlands than it is the heartland of the Southwest and this part of Mexico, because it's where everything's converging. It's the place where the jaguar and the black bear share the same trail.
Then it wasn't until I got out here that I began to realize the history that was out here that I was not aware of before. I was not taught anything in school about the Buffalo Soldiers.
All of those oral history excerpts are brought together with original field recordings and instrumentation by musicians Gus Tomizuka and Patricio Coronado. And it's really this immersive sound experience where we're taking you into this space.
So these are the plants we're looking for. It's a Coryphantha recurvata, the Santa Cruz beehive cactus. It's a state-listed rare plant, and in the United States, it's only known in any numbers from the Atascosa Highlands. They're really healthy, but they're right above this area where there's all of this erosion from the border wall construction that's really changed the hydrology of this area. Who knows what the fate of these plants will be as the erosion continues to pick up on these rock faces that they grow in. These are just some of the most beautiful ones I've ever seen up there.
In a single afternoon, you could wipe out that entire genetic lineage. And once that's gone, you can't get it back. So we should think very carefully about how we interact with these landscapes and how one day can undo millennia of evolution and adaptation in these plant species.
This body of work, because of its collaborative, transdisciplinary scope, is accessible to so many more people than it would have been had it just be a flora or a body of documentary photography. What we have in this project is an opportunity to really bring together people from very divergent, different backgrounds around the same body of work, to have conversations with people that they might not otherwise have, and to also exchange information across fields in a way that just in our particular time and place feels so important.
When you're looking at these landscapes, they are very complex. They're spaces of natural beauty. They're also spaces where people die on a weekly or even daily basis because they're forced into those environments. And so they really are complex because I can choose to go there. Other people are forced to go there. This is a national forest. We think of national forests as these incredible recreational sites or sites of natural beauty. And the fact that this landscape is managed by our federal government is both the thing that has preserved, in many ways, this ecological beauty. And yet, in an era of increasing border militarization, it is also possibly the greatest threat to the continued biodiversity of these environments.
A lot of times when we see regions like the Atascosa Highlands represented, at least within a photographic context, it's oftentimes through coverage in traditional news media outlets. And I think with this project, we've just had an opportunity to go so much deeper in a way that just quite frankly, a traditional news outlet just wouldn't have the access or ability to do. And I think that richness is a richness that is much more reflective of this physical area in real life.
Books Save Lives believes that the right book at the right time can transform minds and heal literacy trauma. Daphne Russell's introspective reading methods can help kids and adults alike by offering tools for literacy growth and self-confidence.
In 1987, I had this professor in their elementary education classes, and she said, every kid deserves a reading journey. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. So I came back home, I got a job, and now I was with, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? So a friend of mine said, read The Book Thief, and I started reading it and went, oh, Marcus Zusak wrote an entire book just to say books save lives. And I cried for half an hour. I mean a legitimate bawling, like grieving the teacher that I was and how ineffective I was and how I didn't do what I should have done. Actually saying any words, right?
I met Daphne through my new teacher mentor. It was my first year teaching, and I had 8th and 7th graders and was like, hey, I want to take you to this classroom. And we walked in and I was like floored because her kids were just like my kids, but they were all reading.
She was coming into classrooms and saying, is there anything I can do to help you? And I said, what I really need is for my kids to not hate reading. They have no motivation whatsoever.
She reached kids the way I sought to reach kids as a relatively new teacher. And I like to try things, so I tried it. And it worked.
The way that I ended up teaching was introspectively. So my kids thought about themselves. I found that most kids kind of stopped in 2nd grade because a very common practice is the teacher showing you pictures and words and you're like, yes, I can do it. Then in 2nd grade, the teacher takes away the pictures and then tells you just picture it in your mind. Now the pictures are gone and the child doesn't have any crutch left to use to develop the words in their head, so they get stuck. What's happening today is that we're going to have 2 kids who have not been successful reading, so we're trying to spark a little bit of light and finding a book that's in their vocabulary range and then igniting the connections. Well, tell us about how you got to this point.
I feel like I did not feel like reading anymore. It just came to something that doesn't really excite me anymore.
I'd get into a book and I'd read it for like a couple of days, and then I would just like lose interest into it really quick.
What I've found through research is that there's 3 things that every kid needs to become a reader. Number 1, making connections. If they can see that same character going through similar circumstances.
I don't look at it the way like, oh, this is making a connection with me. I normally just look at the movie or like read the book or whatever it is as just something like entertaining, like will it entertain me?
These aren't separate from you. It's almost like when you pick one, the missing piece is you. So that when you read a sentence, you go, oh, well that reminds me of, because your brain and what you think and the images inside of here are better than anything someone could draw. You're pitching a kid something that they hated, and you're trying to convince them you don't have to hate it still. So really what you're doing is committing to me, if you want, for 1 book. And then you come back on Monday, and then we talk again and see if it worked.
The second thing that they need is the time to read.
Our test scores show giving our kids the time and the space to read has really paid off.
He actually finished the book as soon as he left us last week.
The bell rang as soon as I went back, so I was in 3rd period. And I finished that book in that period, and I came back to see if you guys were still here, and Michelle Bitch told me that you guys just left.
Okay, so what happened with that book at that time?
I was able to make like more connections than I would, not a lot, but like maybe 2 or 3 more.
And you saw the light starting to go on inside of him. And now that he has made them, he recognizes the work it takes to make them, but also the benefit of making them.
It was just made me very happy that I was able to finally make one. I'm feeling a little bit more confident that I can do it. And I feel that like as more connections I make, I can feel more confident.
During like my classes, I started reading the book
a
little more, and I started liking the book a lot.
Give us an example of a connection that really helped you.
Like, he was with his grandma, and that connected to me because when I was younger, my grandma took care of me a lot.
Oh.
I was with my grandma a lot, and I kind of made a little connection with that.
How does it feel when you make a connection?
I know, it kind of feels good because I never like really been able to done that before.
Yeah.
And like now it kind of feels good.
If he could just keep making those connections, he's gonna feel great.
It's self-efficacy, your belief in yourself that you can do something.
They feel empowered to read the word problems or read aloud in class or be a leader in class because they're able to do that through books.
If a book can get a kid to caring about themselves, to looking at themselves, taking responsibility for themselves, it can happen in any school, in any home, anywhere at all. You just have to believe in books and in kids.
Femme Photo Club invites women and non-binary photographers of all proficiencies into a safe space without the burden of mansplaining to develop their skills, whether they're working with a top-of-the-line camera or their cell phone.
I like this long path of light, so I'm trying to get it to lead people's eyes to the edge of the frame. My body's gonna be interrupting it.
There you go. All right, 1, 2. Oh, that looks so good.
A typical meeting, we usually get to the space, do some intros, and say what brings you to Photo Club. After we do intros, we have a short lesson that can be anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes. There's usually a visual aspect to it, whether it be a PowerPoint or books like photography books that the artists bring in. After the lesson, we typically just break off into little groups or partners and do a lab that implements the lessons that we learned.
I really do love self-portraiture, but it's hard to admit that because it feels like an egocentric thing. But when you come down to it, it's more about being able to express yourself the way that you feel from the inside out. And I think that's super valuable because in this world, it's really hard to have your voice heard. It's just really valuable to see other people around you striving to do the same thing. And it's a huge motivating factor for me to be able to feed off of that energy. And not only just because it allows us to take images that we're proud of, but also because it has a greater meaning in what we want our society to look like.
I went to film school, and my friend Katie, who also went to film school, we just decided sometime early last year that we wanted to create a space where we can continually practice and hold each other accountable for practicing regularly. We met up one day at Reed Park and we're scouting a location, and we wanted to have a meeting for femme photographers. We decided to put out the invitation to the community through Instagram, and there just was a larger response than what we expected there would be. It just kind of snowballed from there. Having a femme-centered space is just inherently less competitive, to me at least. It's just so nurturing and supportive, and we all just get so excited when we post our photos and when we see improvement in our work. And it just doesn't have to be this dominating competitive ladder that we're climbing. We're all growing together as a group collectively.
I've been doing photography for over a decade now, and there's a lot of reasons I wanted to become a cinematographer, but I think one of the main reasons I wanted to work in film was because I felt like photography was a lot lonelier. It was more individual. And as much as I do appreciate that, what I loved about working in film was the teamwork aspect of it all. I love being part of a team and feeling like your teammates are working toward a specific goal to lift you up. And I've gotten back into photography now a lot more because of Photo Club, because it kind of exactly is that, it's just this beautiful community-based thing.
I just have my camera, and I thought it'd be really cool to just capture myself sitting with the lines because I really like how it's very structured on its own. I kind of have this vision of trying to get my hair flowing. I think where I'm kind of struggling is getting that close-up that I want, but that's what the point is of this, is to like kind of figure out, get some shots. Okay, this isn't working, now I can adjust to try something else.
The other day, we had some really beautiful bouquets of flowers and the models were doing sword fights with them. Like being in all these really cool different environments, like an adobe house that's just filled with musical instruments, and being able to zoom in on parts of somebody that you don't normally get to see images of. It's just really fun to be able to take a second to envision something, you know, in your own voice. And I think that's a really cool thing about Femme Photo Club, is that when you see an image posted on Instagram or in the Google Drive, you could kind of automatically tell which photographer it was that took that image, because it's stamped with their own character and their own voice.
Every time I go to Femme Photo Club, there's this lack of pressure that I feel. It's so free, and it almost makes me feel like, oh, this is just fun and games. This isn't serious business. We're just like having fun and hanging out. A lot of my life, I've just been selling myself short with photography and not really interested in taking the educational route. But then Femme Photo Club, it was just like automatically, like my guards were completely down. And it was just really a natural process into learning manual photography. So I had never done that before, and it was just love at first club meeting.
Every month, you can celebrate the diversity of Mexican cinema at the historic Fox Theater. Cinema Tucsón is an affordable series that showcases U.S. premieres, classical and contemporary films, along with conversations with the filmmakers, all for the enjoyment of Southern Arizona's diverse moviegoers.
I love Cinema Tucsón because we can gather to see an amazing cinema and film production from Mexico.
This is a really good opportunity to see something that's international and very well known. So very excited to be here and very excited to watch the movie.
Las calaveras salen de su tumba, chumbala, chumbala, chumbala.
Why is the subject of migrant families so important to you?
I believe that I am very attracted not towards, let's say, the subject matter of migration, but talking about stories of families altogether. And all the films I've made are about families.
Cinema Tucsón was an outgrowth of something that Carlos and I did previously for about 17 years, which was called Tucson Cine Mexico, which was the first film festival in the United States to showcase contemporary Mexican cinema. And after COVID, we decided instead to present it as an annual monthly film series. And the beautiful Fox Tucson Theater gave us a home here.
The Fox is committed to it in part because, well, of our history as a film palace, to highlight a bold film experience. This particular program here at the Fox is such a beautiful encapsulation of the kind of power of partnership.
We are selecting films that we think that our audience wants to see, and they do want to see horror, comedies, and as well as the sort of more challenging esoteric films.
We've been able to showcase films pretty much almost in their world premiere right at the beginning of the festival run. And in some cases, we've also featured older films to also create a dialogue between the new films and the long tradition of Mexican cinema. You know, for me, there's also a political side to all of this. This wonderful theater from 1929, when it was built, the Mexican community was not welcome here. So, it's a very fragmented city, and there were specific theaters for Mexican cinema around here. So I think it's very poetic in a political sense that that Mexican cinema is now centerpiece here in this wonderful theater.
I'm a Mexican filmmaker. I come here for the screening of Homie Somewhere Else. Instead of being a storybook, it's a story film. The audio comes out from the real protagonists of their stories, telling from their perspective, what does it feel to live in the US with the fear of family separation? In Mexico, and what we see is the absence of those members of the family that are not there and in the US. So it was kind of talking about the emotional cost of migration in Mexico. And I always felt it was incomplete until we told the story of the experience in the US. We decided that we were going to tell the stories from the point of view of the young members of these families. It was very clear that we wanted to do this with animation from the start. You can protect the identities of those who are vulnerable. We can make a film that would be more attractive for young audiences, and you can use animation to go inside the minds of those who are telling the story.
I mean, for me, it always comes back to story. I mean, I think of the stories we choose to elevate when they really have the ability to connect us to our shared humanity. So those are the things that for me are exciting about film as a genre, and maybe about every form of art.
Extremely important to understand each other, to listen to each other, to respect each other, and why not? Let's try love each other too.
Cinema Tucsón tries to build a bridge to incorporate, to celebrate other cultures and other peoples.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining us on our season premiere of Arizona Illustrated. We're very excited to share the stories our team has been working on all summer with you. I'm Tom McNamara, and we'll see you again next week. Hi, I'm Tom McNamara, host of Arizona Illustrated. Thank you for watching this entire episode of our show here on YouTube. And if you liked it, well, here's another episode that we think you'll like.